Hello, my name is Jackie Quiroga, and today we'll be sharing my S2 speech. Here are my notes. The war on drugs has proved to be a huge perpetrator to mass incarceration rates in our society today in the United States. Decriminalization of drugs serves as a method to reduce the effects of mass incarceration, as well as reduce the effects that have been brought upon us with the war on drugs. Decriminalization of drugs proposes a solution to alleviating stress on mass incarceration rates regarding drug crime, minimizing the amount of minorities that are affected by drug crime, as well as lessening the sentences that are required for perpetrators that have committed lower ranking offenses such as drug possession or drug usage, as well as looking at other countries and seeing how decriminalization of drugs has worked for them, as we will see later in this speech. The US serves as the #1 highest country with the highest rate of mass incarceration, which is unbelievable, according to Joyce, Skellner, and Weatherby 2019. This is mostly accredited to the tough on crime era, which happened during the 1980s, and it was kind of just skyrocketed from there. So we've seen an increase in mass incarceration rates. This is according to DPA 2015, according to the tough on crime era, in which we just skyrocketed. We saw many people being incarcerated for crime. We were requiring mandatory minimums for drug crime and having people serve extremely long sentences for things like possession and other low offenses. Now, minorities have been largely affected by drug crime, as well as mass incarceration regarding drug crime. In fact, people of color, there is 1 in 3 Black men that are most likely to be mass incarcerated, and 1 in 18 white men. This is an incredible statistic according to FITS of 2021. It is ridiculous having this much disproportionate marginalism between the races of incarceration for drug-related crime. Not just any crime, drug-related crime. We are seeing a 1 in 3 versus a 1 in 18, which is exceptional and crazy numbers. Now, this can propose systemic racism in our society, as we see people within economic wage gaps be disproportionately affected by drug crime. So we're seeing people in lower economic neighborhoods and minority neighborhoods being largely affected and sentenced to harsher mandatory minimums than those who are not in those neighborhoods and in higher economic statuses. Thus, this whole process just widens our economic gap more and creates a terrible paradox of keeping everyone in line and trying to keep everyone unstable and widening our gap even more between minority equality as well as economic equality across the entire United States. Now, by lessening the mandatory minimums, lessening the sentences for lower offending crimes such as drug possession or drug usage of illicit drugs, may increase rehabilitation, according to DPA 2015. In fact, there are less drug use reported in US states that have implemented these rules, and there has been higher rates of treatment among drug users that want to be healthy again. This is again according to DPA 2015. And these US states, they beat the other states tenfold. There are an incredible amount of people that are now feeling safe about talking to others and feeling safe about talking about their drug use and wanting to get better instead of fearing the law and fearing these sentences that are going to land them in prison for up to 10 years for possession, for usage of these drugs they are desperate to stop using. Now we have to look at our criminal justice system. It was founded a long time ago. We've made a lot of changes to it, but there are still a lot of people, a lot of scholars that believe that our criminal justice system serves as a strong system of punishing those who do wrong in order to preserve the rights of others. This is a form of discretionary control over people. If we are so focused on punishing others, we fail to see how we are supposed to fix people and send them back into society. The goal of prison is not to send people behind bars and keep them there. The goal is to punish someone for doing something wrong, rehabilitate them, and send them out into society as a new person that can make positive impacts to their society and the world. If we are obsessed with this idea of putting people behind bars for very low offenses, for drug crime, for drug usage of illicit drugs that are like marijuana, like psychoactive drugs, then we are completely opposing this idea of taking people in, fixing them up, giving them a reason to be a better citizen, and releasing them to be a better person in society. Thus, psychoactive drugs should be the first to have lessened sentences in the decriminalization of drugs, according to FITS of 2021. This would be the easiest to autonomize because it proposes the idea that we should have autonomy over our bodies, into what we put into our bodies. So preventing illicit drugs such as psychoactive drugs would be discretionary control, would have over people that you are not necessarily allowed to have, according to FITS of 2021. So this would be the easiest drug to begin to start decriminalizing, other than marijuana, which we have seen in other states in the United States. But there are some states that are still very strong on this hold. So perhaps moving to a different drug that is completely different in its makeup, chemical makeup, and the process that it takes and what it does to your body may be better to kind of convince these states otherwise. Now, we see an example in other countries in which decriminalization of drugs actually leads to less mass incarceration rates. Not only that, but it leads to higher rates of rehabilitation. In fact, according to Joyce, Skellner, and Weatherby of 2019, 100.8 per 100,000 people are still being incarcerated in Portugal. Now that rate, compared to the United States, who has the #1 highest mass incarceration rate, is incredible. We've seen it work in Portugal, which is where the statistic comes from. In Portugal, they have admitted these decriminalization laws in order to allow illicit drugs to have lesser sentences. And we've seen higher rates of rehabilitation, we've seen lower rates of incarceration, and we've seen higher rates of people prioritizing treatment. If they are drug users and they need help, there are more people that are seeking help because they don't fear the criminal justice system and they don't fear having sentences that are very high. Decriminalization of drugs lessens mass incarceration rates, lessens minority effects, as well as lessens the amount of time spent in jail for these lower crime offenses, and has worked in other countries. This is applicable to us as college kids. We are among the most affected for the users of drugs, and decriminalization of drugs would alleviate all of these strains in these mass incarceration rates across the country. Thank you.